I was born and raised in the Kansas City, Missouri area. Not in Kansas City, but outside Kansas City. And I've raised my kids here, and all of them are adults now. And even though I didn't know the answer to this question, which a local paper brought up, that asked the question and addressed, can you carry a firearm into a polling station where you're going to vote? That's a great question. I'm kind of the guy that carries a firearm everywhere I go. So I kind of want to address that question specifically because it's not as clear as you might think. And whatever you think, you probably are wrong. And really, ultimately, what it comes down to is it is a state issue. It is up to the state how they run elections, that sort of thing. So you have to look at what the state says. There's no federal laws against that. So it's a state level thing. So I can't go through every state in the 50 states and say, well, here's Alaska, and here's Hawaii, and here's Oklahoma, and here's Florida. So I'm just going to kind of talk about Missouri and Kansas for a second, because they're both very different. Kansas City, Missouri is right on the border, and on the other side of the border is Kansas City, Kansas. And then you got the state of Kansas, of course. So in Missouri, what the law says is you cannot carry a firearm within 25 feet of a polling station. I would argue there should be signs. I don't know if there are or not at most polling stations, but there should be if that's the case, because it really revolves around the struggle that it's a public facility usually. But according to the state of Missouri, it's within 25 feet. You can't carry a firearm of a polling station. It's a state law, even though it's public facility. And you can, of course, carry guns in public facilities. On the Kansas side, you can conceal carry a firearm in a polling station, but you can't open carry. And really that is because of what revolves around what a law that both states have, and I'm sure every state in the union has, and this probably is a federal law. I don't know the answer to that. If you do, put it below. Is you can't intimidate voters. You can't go in with a bunch of guns and demand people vote. It's like you're going to go to prison for a long time if it appears like you're trying to intimidate anything at the polls. In Missouri, what you'll face is a $5,000 up to a $5,000 fine and 10 years in prison. That's pretty significant. And Kansas is very similar. It's up to a $5,000 fine and 7 years in prison if you are intimidating people at a polling station. And I would argue that if you walk in open carrying and kind of pushing yourself around, your weight around, somebody could accuse you of that, probably pretty successfully. Now, with that being said, I'm going to highly recommend, if you are considering carrying at a polling station, number one, I would only do it if you're doing it for self-defense only, like if you're concerned about yourself. Obviously, I have no other intentions there, or again, you're probably going to go to prison. But if your sole purpose is to protect you and your family while you're there, just look at your local laws. Just make sure you look at what the state law says in your state. Because again, in Missouri you cannot, in Kansas you can, but concealed carry only. Both states, if you intimidate people at a polling station, you're going to prison. And that seems reasonable to me as well. So there you go, man. Definitely check your states. Don't be foolish. Be careful. Be a good citizen. Exercise your right to vote. Do your civic duty. Make sure you're there if you haven't already voted. But other than that, don't go in trying to intimidate people. Be respectful of what the state is trying to, as they try to run their, these elections. Don't go in trying to intimidate people. If you go in there trying to intimidate people, I hope you go to prison. Don't do that. Don't try to intimidate people, because I've already heard some stories of people trying to intimidate with other reasons. You can find them on TikTok and stuff. Just don't do that. Let people go vote. let them get in there, get out of there, get their vote done, and go home and be with their families again. Don't try to intimidate people for your viewpoint. That's nonsense. But again, make sure you know your laws, your state laws. This is just kind of letting you know this is how it is in Missouri and Kansas, but make sure, you know, we got 48 other states you got to deal with. Make sure you know what your state laws are. So there you go. Any thoughts or insight on any of this, definitely put it below. I do want to take a moment and say that most people watch this channel, hey, they're not subscribers. Click that subscribe button. It greatly increases the algorithm and our ability to get these messages out. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests. So please don't ever, ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, love guns.